Hello, welcome to episode 4 of the Comic and the Counsel. I am Renee, that is Jonathan, and we love you. Also,
How much?
we got quite a few questions in this week, which is awesome. So, again, feel free to email us any questions, if you want some airtight sage advice,
Just general wisdom.
yeah, whether it's legal questions, comedy questions, or just a question about anything, like we're here for you.
Always. That's all we've ever done our whole
And
lives.
the email is comicandcounsel@gmail.com. Comicandcounsel@gmail.com. Watch us on YouTube, subscribe, like the videos, all of the above. All right, first question is from Tristan. And the question is, Renee, have you ever seen a comedian blatantly rip off another comedian's jokes and or set? What are the ramifications of this in comedy culture?
That must have happened, right?
The big one is Carlos Mencia, right? Joe Rogan.
Did he perform out there a lot at the Comedy Store?
Carlos Mencia did, yeah. I believe he worked there as a door guy too. I'm not sure actually, but the big story is he was stealing jokes, and Rogan called him out on stage, and then it became this whole big thing that he steals jokes, and so like everyone knew about it, right? They
Yeah, I
um,
remember that. Yeah.
so there's that. As far as like me witnessing it, not really, but a thing that's common that I've seen just from working at a comedy club for several years is a lot of comics will do similar bits, right? Because especially like if comics talk about topical things, like everyone kind of, or a lot of comics will have similar premises, right? Or the topic will be the same, and then they'll
Yeah.
do their take on it. But I have seen very similar bits, like, and takes on different topics. And the funniest part is witnessing it actually in the same night, because like the show will be really long. Like, so a comic that goes up at like 9 p.m. will have a bit, and then a comic that goes up at midnight will have a very similar bit, and you're like, wait, they didn't even see each other, right?
Right. Yeah.
But that's just coincidence. Because there's only so many
I would
takes.
say then, like, what in terms of ramifications, what were they for Carlos Mencia? Because I kind of remember that. And then, like, for what you're talking about at the end of that, like, what would that mean for somebody? Like, if they heard you, in your late set, it sounded like you did something similar to the early comic.
I think if it was really, it would have to be like really, really like close, because I think that was what it was, like obvious that Mencia was like stealing jokes completely. Because
Yeah.
like you can do similar, very similar stuff, but unless it's like like exact words and stuff, then you're like, whoa, wait a second, that's like taken word for word. With Mencia, I think he kind of like, I don't really know, but I think he kind of was like, I don't know, blacklisted in a way, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah, just like informally though, when somebody like that
yeah, I
calls you
don't think it was like he like wasn't legally allowed to come or something like that, but
yeah,
um I don't really know. I guess you could YouTube that if you're listening and you're interested in that story. You can just YouTube the Rogan
it's a
Mencia
good
thing.
story. I've heard it. So you should.
I haven't seen anything big like that happen since I've been doing comedy. Um, and there's actually a third part of the question that Tristan asked. It says, "And if the situation escalated, what would be some sort of legal recourse, John?" Well, what do you say to that?
Well, the answer to every legal question is it depends, right? So I don't care what your situation is. I got to learn more to know the answer. And then can someone sue you for that? Yeah, because people file bullshit lawsuits all the time.
Mhm.
It's a right you have to file it, pay the filing fee. In terms of what would happen if somebody was copying your material, this is actually a pretty good lesson about intellectual property law, and this is copyright law. and it's different than trademarks and patents. But basically, like, you can register a copyrighted material, but under the law, once you've produced it, as soon as it's recorded, that's when your rights, that's when the rights inure to your benefit. So with Carlos Mencia, all it takes is the fact that you went out there and you did a comedy routine and everyone saw it. And at that point, that's your property, right? Whether you write a essay and you give it to your mother or whoever to read it, once you've produced it and there's evidence that you produced it, at that point, that's your property. And that's really all you have to do. So at that point, I think Joe Rogan in that episode probably got better recompense than a lawsuit would. All right. I mean, you can get some money for it, but that was probably more damaging than any lawsuit could be.
Right.
But that's it's pretty simple, you know, whether it's a song or a poem or, you know, a short story. Once you produce it, that's when your rights begin. And so that's why it's a good idea to let people know, a couple of friends, you know, like share it with a couple of friends through your email, text message, and that kind of solidifies the date and the time that you made it. And you can also register it with the Copyright Office, but there are a couple of like third-party organizations like the Screenwriters Guild. If you write a script, you can register it with them and they'll give you like a certificate of proof to show that, you know, that's when you produced it.
Right.
But yeah.
I have a question actually thinking about, so like what, because I heard a few years ago um about 4 or 5 different comedians messaged me and they were like, "Hey, I think I heard your joke on uh a commercial on the radio." And I was like, "What?" And then one comic was like, "Oh yeah, did you like steal that joke from the radio commercial?" And I'm like, "No, I mean, as much as I hate to admit, I wrote that joke 8 years ago, you know, like
Yeah.
that's just one of my old jokes that I started doing again recently."
Right.
But I never heard it, and like no one could actually. I was like, "Oh, what company?" Like I'll try to like find it. And they were like, "Oh, I don't know." It was like, you know, Verizon or T-Mobile, one of those. Like, and I'm like, well, and I never heard it on the radio, and I never like no one ever could like say exactly what it was, but um, so I don't know. Like I'm worst case scenario, I'm assuming someone might have came and saw me perform and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna, you know, pitch that at the meeting tomorrow," and that's gonna, you know, and then maybe it made it to the commercial. I don't know,
Right.
but so that made me think like, what if I were to do a set like that that wasn't like, in this case I had a lot of comedians that knew me and my joke and so they reached out to me, but like let's say for example I visited you in Portland and I went and did a random show, right? And I like, I don't know, let's say I wrote a couple jokes on the way there, right? And I do those jokes and then someone in the crowd takes them and then next thing you know you're like, or next thing I know with that, maybe you weren't there, but um I see something happening on like a local Portland channel or whatever, and that's my joke. And then I go, what do? I go, hey, that was my joke. And they're like, no one there knows me. No one could have, might have
Right.
remembered. And then it's just, I don't have any evidence. I don't have like, I didn't film my set. Like, what do I do?
True, right. So that's goes back to my other point about registering it or like sending it
Right.
to a couple of people, right? So that's
Have
a
to
good
do.
idea to do, but it also brings up an even bigger point, which is that under the law, the motivation in terms of stealing someone's property, it doesn't matter. It might matter in terms of damages, right? If they didn't mean to do it, they won't have to pay you as much. But it's not an absolute defense to say, well, I didn't know Michael Jackson wrote that song. All right, you can get why that would be the standard.
Mhm.
You can't use that, and we couldn't prove it anyways. I mean, how are you going to know if somebody was there that night that you told that joke? So
Right.
it's not an absolute defense to copyright infringement.
Thank you. Thank you, question. Thank you, question, for sending in your Tristans. Thank you, Tristan, for sending in your questions. We have some more questions from Leslie and Grant. Um, Grant's question to John is, what is one of the funniest things you've done in court? Actually, this is funny. Let me read the second part because it says, John, what is one of the funniest things you've done in court? And then Renee, what is one of the most illegal things you've done on stage? That's funny. Very, very funny, Grant.
I'd like to hear the second question first, if you have
What's
something.
What is the most illegal thing you've done on stage? Well, that's
I don't
funny.
I don't know what most illegal. I mean, it's either illegal or it's not. So did you do something illegal on stage?
Well, I was gonna say, well, no, it could because like I don't know, like would you consider like if I were to smoke weed on stage versus getting naked on stage, one is more illegal? I guess there's not much of a. It's more of like a punishment is greater,
He's
like not more
well, he's
illegal, right?
asking you if you committed a serious crime,
But no,
like
no, of course
Marilyn
not.
Manson on stage.
No, of course not. I've not smoked or gotten naked on stage. I haven't done anything like that. So I've never done anything illegal on stage that I know of.
That you
Unless
know
I,
of. Yeah.
yeah, but no,
30 years from now,
the only thing is
hearing something.
saying edgy words or
Yeah.
words that some might find offensive, but other than that, no, no, no. I'm not committing crimes on stage. What a,
What was the other question? I mean, how did he phrase it to
what
me?
is one of the funniest things you've done in court?
Oh, in court. I haven't done anything too funny in court.
Yeah, unfortunately, court isn't really a place where.
Yeah, court's a place where, especially in South Carolina and rural South Carolina, you don't go up to judges with a sense of humor.
Although I think I would imagine people in South Carolina with their I don't silly wild problems would I would just naturally be funny, right? Like
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, there's a lot of good stories. I've never done anything really silly in front of a judge, but I did have a judge treat me like I was an idiot one time because I had to try to find a 19-year-old mother of a daughter to serve her so we could get custody to the grandmother because she was kind of a transient, like bouncing from hotel to hotel. And, the mother needed official guardianship of the child so she could take the child to doctor's appointments and so on. And so when we got to, basically it was this big, it was a hard time to serve her. And I actually found her on Facebook. And two other attorneys had tried and like couldn't find her anywhere. And I said, "Did you contact her on Facebook?" Or
yeah.
I said, does she have a Facebook? She said, "Oh yeah, she's on there every second of the day." So I just emailed her on Facebook. And I said, "I've got papers to serve you. This is what it's about. You have a right to contest it, but like I'm just trying to serve you the paperwork so we can get the uh, thing moving forward." And when I got to the court, this is when I like first got out of law school. You get a certificate from the mail, from the post office. It's a green little construction paper card, and that's what you get the post office to have the person sign personally. Like they have to personally sign it. They won't deliver it unless you're there and you'll sign for it. And so that's how you prove that the person was served with legal papers. And I got to this judge and I had forgotten, I didn't think I did, but I didn't put the green card onto a piece of paper that says it's supposed to go to the court. You're supposed to paste it
Yeah.
like a little kindergarten project
Yeah.
on
Like
a piece of paper and then send it to the court. And I hadn't done that,
mhm.
but I thought I had sent them a copy of it, and I had sent them multiple attempts of service. And the judge was just like talking to me like I was the dumbest person he'd ever met. And I had to like shove my client down in her chair because she was mad.
Oh wow.
Like she was like, who the hell does he think he is? Because you've been working really hard, to serve this person. And he just starts asking me like what law school I went to. And he was like, "I just got here. That's a little green piece of paper. I don't know what that is."
It's
And
like
that's why
oh
that's
no,
why she was mad, because like
you know
everyone knows
exactly
what
what
it
it
is.
is. You're being a smartass and
Right. I mean, it's from the United States Postal Service. Like it's more official than your, you know, it's at least as official as your local judgeship. And he just was like acting like I was dumb. And I was the only one of multiple attorneys who had actually got her served so we can move forward with this. And the guy was just in a bad mood. And like, I asked a couple of people about it and they said, "Yeah, well, here's his thing." And they told me
actually
why.
related to her. No, I don't know.
Well, no, but it was just kind of like, it's not about you. It's about, he's mad about this and he just picks
Right.
on people. But it's like, but no, I've never done anything. That's just the silliest thing I've ever done in front of a judge. And I paid for it.
Like, what, you a lawyer, boy? You a little lawyer? You an attorney?
He goes, "This is a green card. I need an affidavit." It's like, okay, I'll glue it to a piece of paper for you.
That's funny. So now Leslie's questions. Uh, she says, actually, she has questions for you and two questions, just like granted, one for each of us. But mine is shorter. I'll do that one first. It says, Renee, what is one of your favorite things about doing stand-up comedy? One of my favorite things about doing stand-up comedy is um, the freedom to kind of do what I want to do. Um, right. So it's like, because it's like material that I write, that I say I'm the one on stage. Like I have that freedom,
Right.
um, as opposed to, you know, I don't know, another type of performance. Like if you're an actor, you're saying someone else's lines, right? Like with comedy, I'm saying
Yeah.
my lines and it's just me. Um, which also makes it very difficult, right? Because it's just you. So everything is, either your praise or your fault. Um, so there's that. But yeah, I definitely like to have that freedom. One thing I don't like is if I like once in a while, I have to like some venue might say like, oh, we want you to do a clean set, and that's never fun because they're censoring you in a way, right? So it's like I didn't get into comedy to
So what
be
does that
censored
mean? A
for
clean set? Like
not be able
what's
to
off
say bad
limits?
words. What's that?
I was gonna say like uh with a clean set, what are the parameters? I mean,
Well,
what
yeah, what's fun? Well, yeah, I mean, I can jokingly like if someone's like, "Hey, you got to do a clean set," I might respond with like, "Oh, fuck that." It's like, oh, all of a sudden, like it's not clean because I said the F word.
yeah.
That's what it is like not cussing. That's predominantly what it means, I think, because I've never I that it's never I've never really seen like someone get into it about like content, right? Like as far as words go. Like is that like um like, oh, I can't say fuck on stage, but can I talk about butt rape? It's like one seems way worse than the other.
Right. So like they don't really give you those parameters.
Yeah, exactly. But it's very rare, but it just made me think of that. Um it's happened before. Like I remember I did a show in San Diego when I very first started, and the producers of the show, I had done their show once before, like, they're like, "Hey, do 10 minutes." And, you know, so I did that, and then like I got booked like, I don't know, like a month later, and it was supposed to be like the same thing, like, "Oh, do 10 minutes." And then I get the light, which means, when the producer of the show, when it's like your time to get off stage, they'll give you a light. That means like, you have a minute or two left to wrap up your set.
Right.
So I got the light like only like 4 minutes into my set. And I'm like, I thought I was supposed to do 10. Like, why am I getting the light already? That can't be right. So I just keep doing my set. And then I see her light me again like a couple minutes later. And I'm like, what's going on? And I get off stage and I'm like, what's going on? And then they were like, oh, we want to do clean sets. And I go, well, no one told me ahead of time. Had you like mentioned it even before, right before I went on stage, like then I could be like, oh, okay, but like
Right.
no notice. And I go, did I was like, well, I guess I say fuck like a few times. And then the guy was like, yeah, you said it like 15 times. And I'm like, all right, well, you didn't tell. He's like, I know we didn't tell you, but that's just what we're going for now. I mean, they still paid me, and I was like, okay, fine, whatever.
Huh. That's interesting.
That's only happened once. Like, and then I've done like a clean open mic. But I don't know. That question just made me think of it. But thank you, Leslie, for sending in that question.
Yeah. I mean, do you think there's any more censorship beyond that?
Well, I know, like if
Generic,
you
right?
were like you can like if you were to do like a Comedy Central special, they would have to like approve your like or right approve your set, right? Like you
Yeah.
couldn't cuss during that because it's cable TV, right, or network television, whatever it is, like versus HBO where you can say fuck all you want, but
Yeah. I want a show on Cinemax. Is that still around? I don't even know.
yeah, I think so. Or maybe, oh, actually, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, But yeah, what's the channel I can get away with the raunchiest material?
That's what I always thought of, like as a kid, like Showtime or Cinemax. Like if you wanted to, if your parents went to sleep, you had digital cable, it's like going to that.
Like, hopefully this next movie contains strong nudity. Yeah. And then John, your question from Leslie is says, I work with children between the ages of 1 and 5 with communication disorders. Sometimes they want to fight me when I try to help them use words to talk. Is it legal if we want to cut out all the chit chat and just fight if we're both featherweight? Maybe an up,
Absolutely.
maybe an uppercut or a drop kick to the face. Yikes.
Uh, well, Leslie, I'm going to give you a number when we get off here. I wouldn't recommend that. Self-defense in any situation is a defense
Right.
to an affirmative defense, which means that even if you've hurt somebody, uh, it's still a way to get out of it. So I mean, you can kill somebody literally and still get away with it if it was self-defense. We've seen a lot of this come out. It's been explored a lot with media cases with the police and other situations.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I just maybe a slight smack. Just like when they like, just make sure that wherever the camera is, maybe just take them.
Only because you're both featherweight. I wouldn't recommend.
To be fair, yeah, I mean,
The other.
I get that, right? Like kids can grow up pretty fast.
No, yeah, I admire that anyone who works with kids like that have the patience to deal with that because that would be yeah, because like little kids, especially depending on I don't know what age, um, where they like get to, especially like a little older, right? They like know they can get away with stuff, and
Yeah.
it's like oh you can throw something at me, but if I do something like everyone's gonna want to send me to jail immediately. It's like you
Yeah, it
little
doesn't take
shit.
long. By the time they're like 5 years old, like once they can understand how we communicate, they're on to you.
Yeah,
So
damn little
so you
shits.
could try it, but he's probably going to take notes, and his parents may have sent him to school with a camera on his body. You never know.
Right, well, nowadays there's cameras everywhere, so I definitely wouldn't recommend.
Right, right. It's probably rigged up anyways. So
Right. Well, thank you, Leslie, for sending in those questions.
and send more.
Yes, please keep sending.
I mean, after you beat him up, like I'm sure you're gonna have more questions once you get booked. So
Yeah, she's gonna be like, but I've been working on my uppercut, guys. I really want to do a drop kick.
yeah, send us questions about your bail
Yeah.
next time.
And then we have a few questions from Shannon. First of them, these are great questions, guys. Thank you again. This first one says, "Has a judge ever slid through your DMs?" That's for you, Jonathan, because I definitely haven't as much as I wish I
Is
had.
that what it says?
Yeah.
Are you sure it's just for me? Um,
Well, me, unfortunately, I haven't had any judge slide through any DMs.
I'm not entirely sure if I know what that means. I think it just means you message somebody like in a kind of a sexy way.
Well, I'm assuming she means like, has a judge ever been like, "Hey, do you want to go get a drink?"
No, that's never happened to me. I
Does
wish it
that
had.
happen in does that happen in the legal world ever?
Dude, yeah, yeah. I mean, you'd be surprised.
Right,
at
like
the
lawyers and
yeah.
judges like are friends and stuff, right? And they like they'll
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's a good point, actually. It's not. It wouldn't be totally unethical to just message someone. I mean, judges and the rules of conduct for judges, the canons of judicial conduct responsibility, make mention of this, and they say like, we know judges have to have social lives. You have to talk to people. You got to be able to go to a party and talk to people. So
Mhm.
there's provision for that. So it's nothing wrong with a judge having necessarily like social media page and expressing their opinions, but you have to just deal with that in the context of what your duties are as a judge. So obviously, if I was in front of your court, if I had a case before you, you shouldn't be talking to me alone, right?
Right, but I bet a lot of lawyers and judges like probably butter each other up so that they, if some shit goes down, they could be like, "Hey, come on, remember we're buddies? We were like hanging and having drinks last weekend. Help me out here, right?"
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, there's corruption is in every. It's just part of the human condition. It's not specific to any professions, um, but yeah, I mean,
I'd imagine it happened because I have this
well,
vague memory of a friend of mine years ago telling me that it was like this girl's boyfriend got busted for like, I don't know, like a small amount of cocaine or something. That we'll go with that, and that the lawyer was like went up to the judge and was like he kind of got away with it because the lawyer was friends with the judge and like essentially or apparently went up to the judge and was like, "Hey, so you still coming to my barbecue this weekend?" You know, and
oh really?
yeah, it's a vague memory
Well,
of a story. Like I just remember that the guy told me like the lawyer and the was friends with the judge, and so that helped him out. And I'm like, oh yeah, I
well,
totally get it.
I'll say this: I don't think clients always tell the full truth when they're telling you what happened in
Well,
court.
that
But
too, yeah.
yeah, the judge was like, "Let's go to a barbecue this weekend, go fishing." That would be inappropriate. I mean, if you were in the same court with the
Well,
other
I
party.
don't think it was said to where people could hear, but
Okay, so that was going to be my other point. It's back to my earlier point. I mean, judges can have friends. I mean, it's not. It's a positive thing to be that the judge. You don't want a judge to be completely disconnected from all of us. Trust me, that's not a good thing. You don't want them to sit by themselves and not know the people practicing in front of them. It's a big deal, actually. If your lawyer has practiced in front of a judge, it can help just move the case along in a number of ways that don't flout or flaunt the law. Is flout a word?
I think so. I don't know. I got what you were saying.
But anyway, so
Flaunted.
I've heard this complaint from people, you know, practicing in rural South Carolina. If they don't like what happened, then they'll often say, "Well, when we first got into court, my attorney and the other attorney they were shaking hands and they were all happy to see each other and the judge and it's all corrupt." What you have to remember is that we all did the same thing. Like a judge is just a lawyer who got a different job.
Hmm.
So there's a good chance they went to law school together. And if they didn't, they may know each other. I mean, the judge could have been
Right.
uh, a public defender when the prosecutor was working. And so it's not such a bad thing that you have a justice system where the people who are working in it know each other. Corruption is a bad thing, certainly, but I've seen people get upset about that. I'm like, you should be happy that we know the judge because he can trust what I say.
Right.
If you don't know somebody, you're going to be a little bit more suspicious. So that, years of having an attorney building up a reputation, not just among one judge, but like among all the judges, that's a good thing.
Yeah. I totally get that for sure. Um, all right, the second question is my neighbor's dog humped my dog without consent. Can I sue? Oh, that's funny.
Well, so
Again,
back
you
to our earlier point. Yeah.
can file a lawsuit about anything.
Yeah.
But
But next I have a question, which is,
I would be more inclined to file a lawsuit if your neighbor humped your dog, not your neighbor's dog.
well, that was my question. Like, where are you guys from? What dog park is this? Is this in
Well,
San
just his
Francisco?
neighbor's dog. I don't know. Maybe
It's probably in
maybe they
Portland.
were just at home and the neighbor's dog, jumped the fence and was like, "What's up, dog?" and started getting
Was it was
down.
it was it a neighbor or was it like at a park?
It just says my neighbor's dog humped my dog without consent. Can I sue?
Okay.
Is the dog
Well,
pregnant? Is it a male
right.
dog? That's another. Are they gay dogs?
That's been an important point. I'll tell you first, my dog does not like dogs bothering her at the park. So if you're a male dog, it's all non-consensual. Don't even touch her. Okay. But after that, like, how do you really know how is a dog, how do they consent? Like,
Oh, I guess. Yeah, I guess it
sitting
was.
down like Lady and the Tramp and they're like swallowing spaghetti together and you're like, okay, this is legit.
Yeah, or yeah, or
Show up.
maybe the dog's like trying to get away, and the other
Yeah.
dog's like forcing forcing it down with his paw. Like,
God. Uh, so
uh,
anyway, Shannon. Uh, so yeah, I don't think you're gonna get a lot of money out of that. One, I don't know that you can prove that a dog did something not consensually, and it's just an issue of really like a property owner and uh, the responsibility they have for their property to keep it from damaging your property. So then the question would be, what's the injury? I guess um, if she got pregnant, and that would be, maybe you could have some compensation for that,
Right.
child support.
Puppy support.
But
Oh, yeah.
again, that's not really a thing because their pets are still looked at as just complete property. So there's no, uh, that's basically, unfortunately, that's kind of the way that the law looks at it. It's not a lot different than someone like stealing your stereo or abusing it. So those are the kind of questions that you got to answer.
Nice, thorough answer. That made me think of my friends. I have a friend who has four dogs, and uh, one of them humps the other one, two males. And the one that he humps is kind of like fat, so it's funny because he'll just hump like his fat body, like he won't hump like his butt or anything. He'll just hump his like back and sometimes like his like neck and his head. It's just funny because he's like such like a fat poof. It's kind of like he's just humping a blanket, I guess, in a way. But it's funny because he'll just hump him, and then I guess the funniest part is the little fat dog will just sit there and let him hump his like head, and he's just like, he'll be done in a second.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, is he consenting or?
Oh yeah, he's consenting. He's just fat
Oh
and
man,
old, just like, yeah, whatever, just get it done with.
God.
All right, one more question from Shannon. It says, "Why does the criminal justice system suck such putrid, rank, dirt ass poop shit balls?" uh, I would say, kind of back to part of that goes back to part of our first answer for the first question, right? Just corruption, right? So
Well, I mean, I'd have to know, like, more
specifics, right?
specifically
Yeah.
what they mean. There's been a lot going on. I'll tell you a couple of things that I think that are important to me. Um, we have what's called a money bail system in America.
Oh, it's exactly what I was gonna say,
Yeah,
as well, is like everything always comes down to money.
exactly. Yeah, and that's not fair. It's just not. That's just my view. But what happens is you'll end up with people who get busted for, and this is, believe me, this is one of many complaints that I have. But you get busted for something. You know, half the time they're not even doing anything. Someone calls the police, they say he's suspicious, he's walking, it's 11 o'clock at night, but that's because he doesn't have a car or a bike. And that's why it is suspicious, kind of, because he's in a different situation than you are. And then the cop comes and says, "You have anything in your pocket I should know about?" And he's, "Well, yes, sir. I got a little this and I got a little bit of meth." And they say, "All right, you're going to jail." It's like, okay. So now he's got a bill. The next morning, he's going to have like a several $100 bill
Mhm.
and no treatment. And that's it. And so now he's just like, his life has just gotten taken down a few pegs. He's not going to stop getting high. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to get high as hell as soon as he gets out of there. So, I mean, so that's one thing. But then also, some people just can't afford it, so they sit in jail for months until someone can bail them out, and
Mhm.
that's just not fair because they're accused of very small crimes, and
Right.
the only reason they're being imprisoned summarily, in other words, we haven't decided that they're guilty. They're just there because they're just poor, and that's ridiculous.
Hell
Oh,
yeah.
and marijuana. Just make it legal, for God's sakes. Like, everyone's doing it. There's like 5 states that haven't done any legalization with marijuana.
Oh, yeah? Like, is South Carolina one of them?
Yep.
I knew it.
They're working on it again for medical marijuana, but the last bill I saw, it was a horrible bill because it was very specific, and it was like tailored to the medical definitions of two medical treatments. And it was like, you can prescribe the medicine for, I mean, the marijuana for, you know, just these two things. That doesn't make any sense. You know, a legislator is going to decide now, right? This is what you can do. And they're not even doctors. So what you need to do is decide that it has some medical relevance, and then let the doctors deal with their patients. Don't try to tell them ahead of time how to prescribe medicine. So it failed. They're trying to do it again, but I'm more interested in the federal level, and let's just
Funny
undo.
because yeah, we're the places we're at. You're in Portland, I'm in LA. It's like here, I feel it's like pretty soon you're gonna get fined if you don't smoke weed.
Yeah, right. Dude, I can't get anything. There's no product in Portland that I can get easier than marijuana. I'm
Yeah.
serious. Like the highest quality marijuana, it's all over the place. And you know, time still keeps moving forward.
Yeah. Right. Well, again, thank you guys for sending in those questions, Tristan, Leslie, Grant, Shannon. Those are really good questions. Again, guys, if you're listening, email us your questions, comicandcounsel@gmail.com. We will give you that airtight advice. All right, that's episode 4 of the Comic and the Counsel. Follow us on YouTube or or look us up on YouTube. Listen to us, watch us on YouTube. I don't know how to speak. Subscribe, like, email us, leave comments, all the above. Thank you for listening. We love you so much. Right, Jonathan?
I can't wait to see you again.
We'll see you for episode 5 sooner than later, hopefully. Goodbye.
Season already. Jesus. God love us.
God bless us, everyone. Peace out.